We're going to be talking about our pictorial, creativity and cognition. That's called Screenshots as Photography in Gamescapes and Annotated Psychogeography of Imaginary Places.
That's a very pompous title. Who wrote that?
I think you did.
Oh, God. Should we start again? This seems to have come off the rails quite quickly.
So the authors on this paper is me. My name is Mafalda Gamboa, and then Michael Heron.
Michael.
Miriam, Sturdee, and Pauline, Belford. We're all working at interaction design at Chalmers, and yeah, this is so this is what the pictorial looks like, and this is a pictorial about screenshots.
Yes, sort of, kind of.
And it comes from a conversation that we had.
Does it?
It does.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? It does. Yes. We don't usually have conversations like this because we mostly talk on Slack.
Yes.
So actually that conversation is fully...
I didn't even recognise you when I came in the building. It's just been so long since I've seen you.
Exactly. So I wasn't even sure you were real anymore. So anyway, this comes from a conversation that we had about your travels through Gamescapes. So you've been traveling a lot. Do you want to say anything about that?
Well, I mean, the travelling through games is the best kind of travelling for me because it doesn't actually involve going anywhere or doing anything. Because famously, I hate to go places and do things. But the great thing about games is that they let you explore, I mean, as the title suggests, imaginary places. And those imaginary places are sometimes interesting enough that it's worth taking a few photographs of what's going on. And that's basically the conversation we had. I had taken a huge number of these screenshots, basically as a write-only process. They got saved and then put in a folder for, if I needed them, and then I never needed them. And your suggestion was, maybe there's actually something of value in that relatively vast collection of screenshots. And I said no.
That's right.
And you said yes. And then we debated our relative positions for a while. And yeah I think what came from that was an understanding that there is genuinely probably some knowledge in these screenshots that comes from, I guess, not curation so much as just taking photographs when you're inspired in the moment.
Right. So what we try to do here is to actually backtrack some of these photographs that you had taken and try to understand why you took them, because you seem to be under the impression that you just took them because it was available to just press the button.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's what people do with cameras.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because I was having a conversation with Pauline, who's one of one of the authors on the paper, about how the difference between having a camera in your phone, which is always available, and an actual proper camera with like switchable lenses and things, and the friction of those processes of changing lenses and framing shots and such, I think disincentivize from just taking casual, quick, easy photographs. Whereas a phone is just quick and it's done.
Yeah, that's right. So what we try to do here is to also compare it a little bit with photography and what it means to be doing these, to be taking screenshots as photography, and then you brought up this whole idea of the new games journalism. Is there anything you want to say about that?
The new games journalism is one of the things that's been hugely inspirational for me over the years, and it's kind of odd because it sort of emerged as this idea and it was instantly sunk by everybody who then used it because it became sort of the byword for the most unimaginably annoying self-indulgent nonsense that people could possibly write about games. But at the heart of it, there were some incredibly talented writers who did some very compelling work with this idea that we shouldn't be reporting on the facts of games so much as how games make us feel about things. And the new games journalism isn't like a new idea. It sort of came from the idea of the new journalism from, 50s and 60s or such. The idea that you cannot extract the subjective component of experience from the reporting of experience. And the new games journalism is basically framed by its proponent, a guy called Kieran Gillen, as our job is to go to imaginary places and report on the things that we've seen there.
Yeah.
And that seemed like a very good frame for how screenshots work. Screenshots as photographs of imaginary places.
Right. So we tried to frame this then as a new Games Travelogue, where we're collecting pictures and making an album of the travels. And for this, we also related it, of course, to this idea of an annotated portfolio of experiences, and we tried to annotate some of these together. And we went through all of these, or many of these screenshots as friends would. So I think what was interesting here was that you shared your album with me and with the rest of us, and we looked at the pictures and we were like, so what's your memory, right?
Why this picture of this incredibly objectified portrayal of women, for example.
Right.
And then it was a case of sort of talking about, well, why did I take that picture? And sometimes it was a case of, this is iconic of a particular problem I want to discuss about elsewhere in my professional practice, like classes and project supervisions and things.
Yeah.
So some of it was basically just a case of talking about, well, why this picture? And then not just why did you take that picture, but why did you curate this into the album of pictures that we should be talking about?
Right.
And then it became this collaborative process of working out, well, which of these are actually most interesting to the four of us, as opposed to just me with the person with the screenshot button.
Yeah, because we've all been through those situations where your friends are like, I just came from Paris. Let's sit here for 2 hours and look at my pictures. I thought this was a little bit nicer because I got to.
Yeah, this is Notre Dame. It's Notre Dame from a slightly different angle. This is Notre Dame, but maybe an hour later. This is me in front of Notre Dame. This is somebody else in front of me. Yeah.
And everybody knows that's really fun.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things that we still want to do with this idea. We do recognize the opportunity to sort of encourage other game designers and game researchers and students and so on and travelers in Gamescapes to do this and to annotate them and to be reflective about their picture taking or their photography in Gamescapes. And that's, the point of this video is to encourage people to actually read the thing to look at the thing. So we should convince them. It's filled with really, really nice pictures that you've taken.
And that you've taken.
And some that I've taken, and some annotations of what we thought about this, and a bunch of discussions about visual knowledge in games.
I would say one of the other things I think is important about how we've actually put this together is and I know I'm the one who's sort of pushing for this almost relentlessly, is this idea of psychogeography. Because this is basically the way in which I experience games. So the psychogeography of imaginary places. Psychogeography is this sort of idea that you can draw meaning from a place by simply being in a place, and you can understand about the sort of psychic energy of a location by inhabiting it. So understanding, there's a guy called Ian Sinclair who has this fantastic book called The London Orbital, which is about the ring road that surrounds London, and he sort of explores it through how it feels to be there and how it sounds to be there and how changes of texture create these different kinds of experiences. So Ian Sinclair and Will Self and various others are big proponents of this idea of psychogeography, being connected to a place through experiencing a place. You are the only person probably who has seen this thing from this angle at this time at this pace in the game. And then when you take the screenshot of that, it's an encoding of your personal psychogeography of the environment. And that's a thing that our discussion brought out that I had never appreciated at all. This would never have happened if you hadn't basically said, no, you're wrong, when you say this is a write-only process.
I rarely get that feedback.
Irritatingly, you are right about it, and unfortunately you're right about a lot of things, and it really bothers me because it's usually me who's wrong. I don't like that.
So this is a pictorial about me being right. Yeah. I'm very happy to get this to see this published, and now I have it in words.
Yeah. And I think developing this idea of psychogeography as applied to games is something that offers an interesting lens on something that is inherently a subjective experience, which is enjoying a game. Despite even the most linear on-rails game you can think of, even in those kind of cases, you're still the one deciding the pacing. You decide when, where, and how you progress the game narrative. And that, I think, is part of, I think now, is part of the meaning making.
Yeah.
That comes from understanding how the game makes you feel.
I'll put a presentation together out of this.
Okay,
so
good.
Thank you for watching.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Smash that that notification bell, and check our Patreon.